Well, to discuss what we may well expect tonight, I'm joined now on the line by Thomas Gift. He's a political scientist and the director of the Centre on US Politics at London's University College. Welcome to the programme, sir. Thanks for joining us. Can I ask you, first of all, about this decision by DeSantis to announce his candidacy on Twitter in a live-streamed chat with Elon Musk? It's rather unusual. No presidential candidate has ever done that before. So why do you think DeSantis is?
Well, it's certainly unorthodox, as you suggest. And I think that there are probably a few reasons why he chose this venue as the one to announce his presidential bid formally. First is that Elon Musk has really touted Twitter as kind of this free speech venue. And I think that to an extent aligns with DeSantis's kind of anti-woke, anti-cancel culture agenda. Second is I think that he's expecting a relatively friendly audience with Elon Musk. You know, Elon Musk in the past has said that he thinks that if Ron DeSantis earned the Republican nomination, that he would be able to beat Joe Biden easily. He also said explicitly in response to a question whether he would support Ron DeSantis for president, he said yes. And then lastly, I think just the fact that this is different is kind of the point. You know, Ron DeSantis has been telegraphing his plans to join this race for quite some time. And so, you know, there's not a whole lot of drama or suspense to it. And he's trying to find some way to make headlines. And, you know, one way to make headlines is to do something unique. So the fact that this is unorthodox gets people talking. I think that's largely the goal here.
I'm sure it's fair to say, though, that since Musk took over Twitter, the platform has had a pretty rocky time. His leadership's been controversial. Hate speech, for one thing, has become more common since Musk took control. So I wonder, given that DeSantis has to try to reach out to moderate voters as well as the sort of hardcore Trump wing of the party, might this Twitter move actually backfire for him?
Well, it's a good question, and certainly there are downsides as well to announcing on Twitter, and the ones that you raise are certainly legitimate concerns that I'm sure the campaign considered. You know, for right now, though, I think a lot of those voters who may have skepticism toward Elon Musk or who may have concerns about sort of Twitter's pivot toward more of a free speech stance, which some think equates to a hate speech stance, you know, those are more voters that DeSantis would encounter in a general election. And so I think right now what he's trying to do is mobilize the base. And so I think that is sort of less of an issue right now in the primaries.
Indeed, the first thing DeSantis needs to do is to win the Republican nomination to begin with. Donald Trump's still leading, though, in those polls. Do you think he actually has a good chance of winning the Republican nomination?
Well, I think out of all the Trump alternatives, he probably has the best chance at this point. But certainly, he's faltered quite a bit in recent months. You know, if you go back to last November, for example, whenever Ron DeSantis was coming off this huge victory in the Florida governor's race, everyone was looking to him as kind of the favorite. And now, if you look at the polls, he's down by upwards of 30 percentage points. But, you know, I think that at this point, Trump is still most concerned about Ron DeSantis. And one of the reasons that you know that is because he keeps talking about Ron DeSantis. And one of the super PACs for Donald Trump, for example, has spent more money so far running ads against Ron DeSantis than it did the entire 2022 midterms backing Trump candidates. So, you know, I think at this point, it's very much Trump versus everyone else. It's still a question mark as to whether Ron DeSantis is going to emerge as the main Trump alternative. But, you know, for Trump, I think he's hoping that lots of alternatives do jump in this race because he has kind of a floor of support. And if other candidates can split the anti-Trump vote, that really makes it a much easier path for him in the primaries.
And politically, I wonder how different you think DeSantis and Donald Trump are. It seems that on plenty of issues like within the culture wars, actually, they're kind of reading from a similar hymn sheet.
Yeah, I think in terms of policy, it's really difficult to find substantive areas of disagreement. So really what we're going to see is a contrast in style. And Ron DeSantis in particular has leaned into this electability argument to say, look, I'm really the only one who's electable in a general election. I'm not sure if that necessarily resonates with the Republican base, particularly in the primaries, because to a large extent, I think their vote is based on emotion and not this kind of calculated reason of can we beat a Democrat in the general election. That's certainly a consideration for some, but really this style difference is where we're going to see the greatest juxtaposition, with Trump being Trump and Ron DeSantis being kind of Trump light, still quite aggressive, I think, in some ways, and still willing to own the libs and kind of take on the establishment and so on, but not in a way that is quite so toxic as Trump.
Can I just ask you finally who you think has the best chance against Joe Biden?
I think that Ron DeSantis definitely has a better chance than Donald Trump against Joe Biden. And if you look at polling state by state, particularly in these battleground states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Michigan, I think that's where you see much more of an edge for Ron DeSantis. He's just much more appealing, I think, to a general electorate, particularly for suburban women, for example, and other demographics that we often think about as tipping the election in one direction or the other. Most voters have really made up their mind about Trump. They either like him or they don't. He has very low approval ratings, very high disapproval ratings. And so for that reason, I think that Ron DeSantis is more likely to win over some of these swing voters, these moderate voters.
Thomas Gift from UCL London. Thank you very much indeed, sir, for your time today.
Thank you.